Whoops. I've snapped my finger, and not just snapped my finger, I have exploded it. Like, you know, cheap sausages? You know, sometimes the end will come undone and it'll just... Yeah, I did that. And I'll show you some pictures in a minute, but we'll put them in a section so that if you don't want to see it, you don't have to see it. You know, I don't want to just surprise you with gore. Sometimes my family, like my nan, will be like, oh, so what have you been up to? And I'll tell her what I've been up to, and she's like, oh, that sounds dangerous. And like, I haven't had an injury from training, from even strongman training, ever. This is my first one, and I didn't even do it doing something cool. Yes, I did it on a log, but I did it while tidying the garage. Like, the actual training had nothing to do with it. My garage is a mess. And the funny thing is, it's been a mess for years. I'm always climbing over things to get to other things. What was happening was that I was tidying the garage, you know, for the first time ever. I was like, I should sort this mess out. And that's what did me in. So I was just moving some stuff around, and then the log decides to come say hello, and comes at me, and I'm bent over, and I'm like, oh, better get out of the way. And I get out of the way, and I see it heading towards my hand, and I move my hand out of the way, but not fast enough. And the end of the log smashes into my little finger, and then, how do I describe it? Spreads it along the wall like marmalade. Pretty disgusting. I don't exactly see it happen. I just feel it, you know, because I'm pulling away, and obviously instinctually you grab the injury, and then I start like pacing around the van, like, because you never know what an injury is, do you? You get an injury and you're like, oh God, that really hurts. But it hurting and it being damaged aren't really sort of related. You know, sometimes you have an injury and you're like, that really hurts, and you're expecting to see no limb or whatever. This was exactly like that. So I'm walking around doing laps of the van, like making myself brave to look at it. I probably make 2 laps of the van. I'm like, okay. And then I pull my hand away from my finger, and I can feel that it's very sticky, and like my finger's coming away with my hand. And I was like, uh-oh. So I run into the house, blood everywhere. We have first aid stuff around the house, but like an idiot, it's not all in one place. So I went to the bathroom to see what there was there, still like bleeding all on the walls, all on the doors. Then I know that there's some in Skate's room, so I go up there and see what there is. I know there's some somewhere else, so I'm looking around. And I find a gauze pad from when I had my appendix done, and I wrap that around it, and then I find some Rocket IKEA plasters, so I put those on it, and then I'm like, right, I gotta get myself to hospital. There's no one else around. So I leave the house, lock up, get to the garage, see that my garage is open and there's a bunch of stuff on the drive, and I'm, well, I'm not getting robbed. Like, I'd rather bleed out than lose some of these things that it's taken me a long time to collect, you know. So I sort of like one-handedly try and move all the stuff into the garage, and I get it piled enough that I can close the door. So I close the door, put the lock on, get in the van, and I drive myself to A&E, which is, I don't know, 11-minute drive on a clear day. So not too bad. And the whole way there, I'm like, you know, I'm sweating, I'm bleeding, I'm panting, just trying to control, like just trying to stay focused on driving, on sticking to the speed limit. I'm not doing anything stupid because I'm in pain. The drive goes remarkably well. Everything's fine. And then I get to the hospital. There's nowhere to park. You know I'm not dying because it's been 15-20 minutes since the injury, so I'm not going to pass out any second. I'm not dying, everything's fine, but I need somewhere to put the car, the van, and I'm not going to get a parking ticket. So I drive around the actual car park, and it's in this way that's like a sort of snake pattern, and you've got to go all the way around before you can get out, but there's no spaces, and there's people looking for spaces. So I was stuck in traffic in the car park, just like bleeding and panting and bleeding and panting and sweating for, I don't know, what felt like forever. And then I drive around the hospital to another car park, and I see a nurse, and I'm like, is there anywhere I can put this? Because I'm in pain. I'm bleeding and sweating and help. And she's like, you could just hook it on the A&E ambulance bit. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't seem cool. I'm not getting in the way of, like, I'm fine. Somebody in an ambulance is probably not fine. I'll just look for a car parking space. Don't worry about it. So I go around, and eventually I find a parking space, and it's next to an absolute muppet, like somebody who is obviously in an emergency. That's what I'm going to choose to describe their parking. Like, they were obviously in an emergency, so they just hooked it any way they could, mostly in one space, you know, like corner in one space, corner in another space, body of the car diagonally. And I'm like, I got in, but I was so unhappy with my parking, and I just didn't want to be that guy. Having experienced having to park next to that guy, I didn't want to create a problem for the person trying to get in or out of the next space. So I straightened up my parking like a muppet, got out, and then walked to A&E with my arm in the air, like grabbing it to stop the bleeding, elevating it, because I know that's what you're supposed to do, and I am sweating and panting and bleeding. That's basically what happens during the story. I bleed, sweat, and pant. I'm like, it hurts a lot. I didn't mention, but I should have done, that when I opened my hand and saw the sticky viscera that used to be my finger, I saw both ends of my nail, right? Like, it was out like that, both ends. That's how they torture people. You know, they pull people's fingernails out. So it wasn't a little cut and I'm being dramatic. It really, really hurt. Anyway, so I'm bleeding and sweating profusely, as you should be, and panting and like gritted teeth. I'm like, and now, since COVID, there is a security guard outside of all the hospital parts, and he's stopping people on their way in, and he sees me and he's like, whoa, because I'm filthy, bleeding, panting, gritted teeth, sweating. I don't like I'm going to do anyone any damage. I'm clearly just, you know, trying to get to the A&E. Anyway, I get to the desk, the lady's very nice, take a seat. Okay, so I'm sat on this chair, like listening to some music, Reaper Man by Mother, and I'm just listening to it on repeat, trying to get into sort of a meditative state, you know. I'm trying to slow down my breathing, and I'm like grabbing the edge of the thing, and I'm rubbing my feet along the floor, just panting like. And they call my name, and the nurse is very lovely. She's very lovely, and I appreciate these people are here to help me. I'm not complaining about anything at all, but I'm in a lot of pain. I wasn't rude in the slightest. What I was is weird. You know, like I'm trying to be overly cheerful in case I come across as anything other than grateful. People often get the wrong idea about me, and I try to make that not happen. So I was pretty weird, and yeah, she's great. She unwraps the thing, bits of my finger come off with it, and it's disgusting. And my nails like this, like on the outside of the rest of my sausage. She's like, "You're not gonna like me," and I'm like, I'm sure you're lovely. You're putting it together. I appreciate that. It's me that I'm not a big fan of right now. And she gets out this needle, and it is enormous. I cannot believe the amount of local anaesthetic that they put in me. And she jabbed me in here, and I'm like, oh, that really hurts. And then there is a feeling that she must have put a pint in there. Like, how is there so much volume going into my finger? And she pulls it out, and I'm like, oh, thank God that's over. And then she stabs me in the other side. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going again, great. And she puts another quarter pint in, and then she stabs all the way along the tip and then all the way down this side, you know, which I'm grateful for because it stopped hurting eventually. But I felt every one of those, and it was, do not recommend. Yeah, she's like, you're gonna pass out, you gotta stop panting. And I'm like, you don't know how I train. You know what I mean? Like, you underestimate my aerobic capacity. I can pant for days. I'll start asking her about her favourite band and stuff, and she's like, I'm gonna put your finger back together now, can you feel this? And she, you know, jabbed it a little bit more, and I'm like, yeah, I can still feel that. She's like, all right, well, give it a minute. So I put my headphones in. I put a headphone in. I'm listening to Reaper Man still. It's on repeat. Like I said, trying to get into that flow state where time dilates. But she can't hear what I'm listening to. And the words to Reaper Man are like, oh yeah, I'm a sexy mess. Everybody out here on a leash, but not me. Like, it's a bit freaky. So like, I'm there on the desk, going to my happy place, singing the lyrics to Reaper Man. She can't hear what's going on. She just, like, she's putting some guy back together with an exploded sausage, going like, oh yeah, I'm a sexy mess. So she must have had a good time. Yeah, but I'm miles away. I'm just trying to be all right. Anyway, yeah, it was great. She put me back together. She wrapped me up. She must have been through about 90 steri strips trying to put me back together. None of them would stick. She's like blaming crappy equipment rather than the truth, which is she's, I don't know, she's trying to tape a sausage back together, you know? She's trying to tape a burger, like she's trying to, I don't know, just like raw mush, and she's trying to tape it into a finger again. Nice lady, super nice lady. Yeah, she kept laughing at me because whenever she'd move it, it would be like, so it's super crunchy in there. And she's like, I'm sorry, that's very crunchy. So we went to X-ray, waiting there maybe 10 minutes, started reading a bit of a book because I'm numb now, so I'm not having the best time, and I've got the ick like you wouldn't believe. Just the idea of all that stuff moving around freely in you. Didn't like it. I got an X-ray. The guy said blimey, and I was like, did you just say blimey? And he's like, no, I didn't say blimey. Okay, whatever you say. And I'll show you the X-ray, and I actually thought it was not blimey because it's just a clean break. Like I'm absolutely astonished with the amount of crunching noises that it made, how clean that break is. So yeah, I go back to the lady, and I don't think she does anything else other than show me the X-ray, prescribe me some antibiotics, and then tell me I've got an appointment either tomorrow or the day after with a boniologist, orthopedic, whatever. And then they huff me out. So right now I will show you the gore, and then I'll tell you what's happened since then. So be prepared for gore. If you don't want to see gore, then skip ahead. I'll put chapters in this so it's easy to do. And if you do want to see gore, well, 3, 2, 1, here's gore. Here is a picture of my finger with the nail out the wrong way. I only got from that one angle because obviously I was in pain and panicking and stuff, but I did want to get a picture. I just wanted to get one picture. On the other side of the finger, it is completely exploded out of there all the way basically to like the pad of my little finger. It's like my fingers come apart the way you peel an orange when you peel an orange in one go. Yeah, like I've spiralized my finger. Here is a picture of my finger once she'd finished putting it back together. It looks a lot like a normal finger once she'd finished putting the nail back under. Gore over. It didn't give me any painkillers. I've just been on paracetamol, like watching the clock, like it's been 6 hours, it's been 6 hours, it's been 6 hours. It's fine. Yeah, so 4 days later, they took off the dressing, dunked me in some saline to release the steri-strips because they started to peel one off, and the pain, because I was off painkillers by that point, like my pain had not gone away, but it was at a manageable level. Today's my first day without painkillers because I prefer not to if I can. So they leave me soaking in this thing and they peel them off and everything's fine. A doctor comes in, he's like, is it okay if I just test your nail? And I'm like, what do you mean test my nail? And he goes, boom, and he mimes smashing my hand again. And I screamed like a little girl. Deliberately, I knew he was doing a joke. I was joining in on the joke. I did think that is strange behaviour for a doctor, but I had, you know, they'd met me, so I think that gives you grounds to be a bit strange if you know you're in strange company. Put a new bandage on this one now. I'd stuck myself to my other finger just to give it a bit of support and stop me donging it because I'm an idiot. I'd bought a sling so I could keep it real close to me because I'm an idiot. Like we went for a long walk the other day and there was a lock, you know, along a canal where the lock doors have a tread board that you can walk across and hold the thing. Well, I walked up to that and I grabbed a thing, and then my hand went, you don't grab things anymore. It really hurt. Also, a lot of the time I'd like just put my hand and I'd feel the bone like out of place, and I'd be like, oh, for a millisecond it would feel so good, and then the pain. So just to avoid that, I just stuck it to the finger next to it and then stuck it to myself. It's been great. I was remarkably impressed by how much like a finger it looks already. Like I'll show you some pictures from when I had the dressing changed. Second but less gory warning. It just looks like when a corpse has been in a bath or something, you know, and the flesh goes all white. It just looks a lot like that, really. Gore over. So, astonished at the human healing abilities, and grateful for the NHS being so wonderful, even though they've been deliberately underfunded for the past, I don't know, 30 years. It is going to change the sort of things that I was going to put out because, like, I was doing squat every day. What I mean is whether unmodified Bulgarian is good or bad. But I can't grab a bar. Now I can grab these two fingers, but before, like, any movement in my hand, this whole thing would be like, nah, don't do that. That video is now going to be different, but it is still going to come out. I'm not able to do anything where I would be grabbing things with one hand, and that's a lot of things. So, not really sure, to be honest. I got a couple of restoration type projects that I want to do, and as soon as I can get this hand wet, I will probably do those. I just thought I'd keep in the loop with what's going on, and to be honest, I thought it was a funny story, so thought I'd tell it you. So the moral of this story is don't tidy up after yourself, or always tidy up after yourself, because if I hadn't let the garage get to the state it's in, I wouldn't have had the injury. But if I hadn't tried to clean, then I also wouldn't have had the injury. So either be very clean or not clean at all. But whatever you do, get them gains, because I can't right now. Well, I can't in this arm right now for a short period of time. I'm gonna make all kinds of gains in the other 3/4 of me. I got a mighty shoulder pump yesterday because I just did twice the reps. Instead of doing left and right, I just did right twice. Yeah, whatever you do, be sensible, be safe, get them gains, be well.